What's going on, Fantasy Alarm Nation? My name is Justin Fensterman. Over here is James Grande, and this is your DFS NBA live stream for tonight's 8-game slate. What's going on, Daddy-O Grande? How are you?
Nothing much. I'm glad I got to share the Bubba Sparks, in case what you guys want to know what we were doing prior to this live stream, jamming out to some Bubba Sparks. Not Miss New Booty, though. That's the common misconception that Bubba Sparks only has one song. Not the case. He is an all-time great, in my opinion. I'd probably put him top 5 rappers of all time.
Okay, let's pump the brakes there, Grande. Okay, let's pump the brakes. All right. And by the way, thanks a lot. You ruined one of my transitions because when we were going to small forward, eventually I was going to ask you if you're a Bubba Sparks guy, and I was going to say it's about to get all ugly for small forward tonight. So I am fearing starting small forward for DFS. We'll go over some options in Grande's DFS NBA playbook. So Grande, let's start where we always do, and that's the point guard spot here. You're paying up tonight if you're going to pay up Luka Doncic, Trae Young for very expensive options. Who do you prefer between the two?
I have Luka in so many lineups. And, there's been a trend since there's been a trend on Minnesota's defense all year, and there is none. But since they assembled this new roster and there's no Karl-Anthony Towns, they're still playing at a fast pace, but they are not playing any defense. They've allowed 115 points or more in the last 4 games. And the good thing is they've been competitive too. They held their ground against a really good Celtics team. And I think they're a pretty good roster. They just can't defend. And Luka under 10K is criminally mispriced on FanDuel. I don't know what FanDuel is doing in terms of that pricing error, but it's very hard to ignore Luka. But at the same token, Trae Young's also 9,600, doesn't have to deal with Ben Simmons' length on the other end, and he's gone for 59 fantasy points per game in 2 meetings against Philly. So I think Trae is the pivot, and obviously the ownership, shows true to that, that he's the pivot off Luka. But Luka's as good as it gets at that price tag, as good as it gets in terms of fantasy production. And I do have Russell Westbrook written up top, but Fancy something to note, over the last month, your New York Knicks rank 4th in terms of DVP against point guards. They're the 4th best defense against point guards over the last month. There is no Frankie Smokes, so that obviously plays a big role. Then we could get Elf or DSJ defense, and that obviously opens the door for Westbrook. But they've been better. Maybe that has to do with RJ Barrett guarding a lot more point guards. That length can cause a lot of issues for a lot of different guys. So I do like Westbrook, not to the extent I like Luka and Trae, though.
I'll say this, Elfrid Payton is in the injury report, Grande, so still waiting to see if he is going to suit up. So we have to remember that, because outside of that, he could be seeing Dennis Smith Jr., and that right there is a cakewalk on the other side. And that's where the DVP there is, not so ideal.
Right.
Let's talk about another option, and this is an option that I put in the starting 5 video at fantasyalarm.com. Spencer Dinwiddie, no more Kyrie Irving the rest of the way. This is your top scoring option for the rest of the season, averaging over 20 scoring points. And Grande, we talked about this a lot when you and I host live streams together, attacking the Magic guards. And tonight is another great opportunity for Spencer Dinwiddie. Last time out, he didn't shoot so well. Still took a lot of shots, but he didn't shoot well. This time, though, especially with how helpful he's been on the glass, dishing assists, you're going to get a lot of production out of him.
Yeah, and he continues to shine without Kyrie, even with Karis LeVert taking that next leap as well. Dinwiddie has put up 37 or more FanDuel points in his last in 4 of 5, and he's put up 30 in 8 of 10. So we're getting a very consistent floor. We're getting upside, and another guy. And I hate to keep throwing FanDuel under the bus, but they deserve it until they fix their pricing error. $7,100 for a guy that's gone over 37 fantasy points in 4 or 5. What are you doing? He has a 32% usage rate. Why is he 7.1? It makes it too easy to fit all these guys into our lineups. This is why we consistently see FanDuel 420, 430 winning every single night. If you go from FanDuel's winners to DraftKings, there's a discrepancy every night, and this is the reason why he's mispriced. I like 7.7K on DraftKings too. It's a better price tag. It makes you think more. It doesn't even make you think on FanDuel. 7.1, why would we even hesitate? So, I mean, Dinwiddie's a great price on FanDuel especially, but he's fine for cash games, all formats on DraftKings as well.
When these sites eventually get it together and make Dinwiddie an 8K player, let's say we're talking in a week or two and he's all of a sudden 8K 8-1, are you still spending up for him?
We've seen it, and I mean, as long as the usage rate continues to stay where it is, why are we not paying 8K for a guy with a 30% usage rate? He's going to handle the ball more than anyone else. He's going to take more shots. And yes, again, LeVert has clearly taken on that 1B, or even if you want to even say LeVert has been the 1A side since the All-Star break, that's fine. But even before the All-Star break, but like Dinwiddie is still going to lead them in assists. So even if LeVert's scoring more than Dinwiddie, let's say Dinwiddie has 15 points, 10 assists. Like you mentioned, there are rebounds. He is good in the passing lanes. I mean, the guy does it all for this Brooklyn team. He's going to play all the minutes too, considering this game. I saw that Orlando is up 1-0 in this series. If Orlando wins, they own the tiebreaker. So, end of the season, one of those teams are going to avoid Milwaukee. And if Orlando's up 2-0, that's, good night, Brooklyn. So, you have a better chance, obviously, against Toronto. I suspect Dinwiddie plays 40 minutes tonight.
Come on, Grande. They don't neither team has a chance.
Okay. Obviously, that's not me saying that, like, okay, maybe they can – it won't be a 3-0, see you later, potentially stealing a game at home. You're not stealing a game against Milwaukee. You're not.
No, you're not. I thought about it. You're not stealing a game.
You're not stealing a game against Milwaukee.
No, not if you're either one of those teams. But let's talk about a player who you could get at a nice steal. Another guy on FanDuel, good price point. Goran Dragic. No Jimmy Butler. No Tyler Hero. It opens up a lot of shots. And Duncan Robinson really just stays at the arc. Someone else besides Bam has to be attacking the basket because they're going to have Jay Crowder sit at the arc. And that's where Dragic comes in off the bench. Great price point. 6K has me thinking a little bit more Grande, but still against Cleveland in a good spot. I love that FanDuel price point for him.
Yeah, I love the FanDuel price point, and I think a lot of people are obviously going to gravitate towards Kendrick Nunn, and warranted, because another misprice on FanDuel. I can't stress that enough. He's $4,700 after going for 26 and 8 against the same team. Like, whatever.
Grande, quick question. Are you a FanDuel pricing guy?
Let's move on, Fancy. Let's move on. Let's go back to Goran Dragic so my blood pressure stays. Listen, I'm a father. I have to keep my blood pressure at a certain level now, okay? Dragic is going to be the pivot off Nunn. And the ownership kind of speaks to that. I mean, Nunn is projected to be one of the highest owned players on the slate. And again, it's warranted because of how good he looked. And he closed. I couldn't believe it when I was watching that game. He closed. They were up 20, and he came in. He checked back in the game and closed after starting. That's Nunn. So, like, Dragic is a contrarian play. Hopefully Cleveland, now at home, keeps this game close. You can get Dragic at a really low ownership, as well as Markelle Fultz at a really low ownership, and as well as Mike Conley. I think all three of these guys kind of fit in that same category where no one's going to play him because you can spend up at point guard tonight, and the spend ups are obviously as elite as it gets. Or you can go down and get Kendrick Nunn in the value tier. I think Conley, Fultz, Dragic present really nice GPP contrarian options. And I think one of them could pop, and you see him a lot in winning lineups tonight.
There you go for point guards. That is who we're talking about. A lot of guys. We'll continue talking about which teams that we like as a whole tonight as well. Let's move on to shooting guards because you're going to be fading Harden tonight, right, Grande?
Your favorite question to ask.
Yes.
So, like, I actually have like 4 or 5 guys, and it's crazy to say out loud. It's crazy. It's ludicrous to say out loud. There's about 4 or 5 guys that I actually prefer ahead of Harden tonight. But like, there's no denying the fact that this is a guy that can break a slate. I mean, he's gone for 60 plus in 4 straight. He's a guy averaging almost 40 actual, and he gets the Knicks. RJ Barrett can present some problems because of his length. I mean, he's a lengthy 2-guard. It just is what it is. Harden can also get him in foul trouble within 2 possessions. He could take him to the basket, and there's 4 free throws and 2 fouls in RJ Barrett, and we're asking ourselves, well, we screwed up not playing Harden. I just think I'm prioritizing other guys at other price points. Like we mentioned, Luka is $9,800 on FanDuel. Harden's $11,500. we can get the same production out of Luka in an arguably better matchup. So like I think Harden's an elite play, and I think he could obviously win you a slate. And I think if you're making 20 lineups, you have him in a couple. It's not a full fade, but I just prefer other guys. I almost prefer the guy below him more in tournaments, even though it's a back-to-back. And I had a rule where I don't like to play jump shooters on second nights of back-to-backs, especially when they're traveling. Last night, they were in Chicago. Now they're home, but that's still, a flight and have to get to your hotel or wherever you're staying at that time. So Beal is a great tournament play, but also how many minutes does he play based on how close this game stays competitive, Fensty?
Right, that's what I'm worried about. I actually have a bet in with Milwaukee minus 13. I took Milwaukee on that, Grande.
I don't blame you. I really don't.
I can't. They just played last night. I mean, how can I trust this Wizards team to even keep it competitive? Doesn't mean I don't think Bradley Beal is going to be in the game for a while. I'm not too concerned about minutes or shots for that matter for him. He's one of 4 guys in the league that we can honestly say has the eternal green light. Maybe 5 if you include your boy Zach LaVine.
Yep.
But still, with Bradley Beal, again, I think Milwaukee's going to be all over this team tonight. I'm really afraid for the Wizards.
Yeah, and it's something that John and I alluded to last night on the podcast. Milwaukee is kind of in that effort mode where if you look earlier in the year, Giannis was it would be a blowout. Giannis plays 22 minutes. Now they're blowing everyone out, and Giannis is saying, you know what? I need to rev it up for the playoffs. Give me I'm playing 30 minutes no matter what. So if you're going to tell me that Middleton, Giannis, Bledsoe are going to play 30 minutes every single night, this team has no chance. And the 13-point spread, I would take Milwaukee in that instance too, Fancy, and that's what scares me about Beal. But if he has a night like he had last night, he can literally keep them in this game single-handedly and could win you a tournament.
No, that's very true. Now, somebody else with the eternal green light for maybe even the rest of the way, D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, out for just 2 weeks with a fractured wrist, Grande. I call BS on that.
I call BS too.
I call total BS like we have with this guy's health all season long. Mm-hmm. I even think that there's a chance they shut him down for the rest of the season.
They should. Well, maybe not because, it wouldn't, if he is healthy enough to play, why not, get a little chemistry going with Russell? Because I love this duo. When they're healthy, I love it. I wanted them to trade for him in the offseason. I was all big proponent for it. To get Russell and Towns to play with one another. So if Towns is healthy enough, I do call BS for the 2 weeks. No one's coming back after a fracture wrist after 2 weeks. But if he is healthy later on in the season, I don't hate the idea of having him come back. But back to Russell, I love this matchup. And I was talking to John about it last night, and we talked about it already. I mean, Minnesota has been bad defensively, but they've been good with these new additions offensively. Malik Beasley has taken a step in the right direction. Naz Reid, Juancho has been better. They get a nice piece in Jake Layman back tonight, who's only going to play a handful of minutes, but he's a good shooter. And that's even more shooters to surround Russell, who has 24 assists in his last 2 games. And not only 24 assists, he's taken 39 shots, and he's shot less than 40% in back-to-back games, going for 45 fantasy points. If you shoot less than 40%, and you have 58 fantasy points, I mean, what happens if he shoots 50% tonight, Fantasy? We could be talking about a 70-point ceiling if he continues peripherally the way he's like his trajectory. I love Russell in tournaments tonight, and I love him in Luka stacks. Pair him with Luka if this game stays close. I mean, we could be talking about 130 points just from Russell and Luka in the same game together.
D'Angelo Russell, maybe the worst defender I have seen all season long. And I'm thinking about guys like Russell Westbrook, who don't play defense. D'Angelo Russell's defense is embarrassing, Grande. And that is a great call right there. Now, with the Mavs, you can get to them as well. And that's where Russell has the eternal green light to shoot. He's used to having it in Golden State when that was a wasteland situation. So I like that there. And pretty fair price point, under $9K on both sites. You mentioned Malik Beasley. Let's move down to another guy who made my starting 5 video, and that's Josh Richardson. Now, Tobias Harris was still doubtful at the time. So I liked him a whole lot more than Grande. But still, Ben Simmons being out, my one fear of Josh Richardson now is Alec Burks. Is there enough room for both of them to be very productive tonight?
So I think so. And we saw it in the Brooklyn game 2 nights ago or 2 games ago when Simmons first sat, and this was before the injury. Simmons sat and Burks played 30 minutes. Richardson played 39. And both were very productive. Richardson didn't shoot the ball particularly well, 3 of 12, but he's very good in other categories. I mean, this is a guy averaging a steal per game. This is a guy averaging 3 rebounds, 3 assists. So, I mean, we're still talking about an underpriced player who's going to play a boatload of minutes. And hopefully Philly just does the smart thing and start Burks at point guard or because no one cares about Raul Neto. No one wants to see Raul Neto play minutes. I think they can coexist. I think both are viable. I think Richardson's underpriced, and I think he's going to be one of the chalkier plays on the slate. Even with Tobias, it's not like, he hasn't been productive. I mean, we were playing Josh Richardson when Harris, Simmons, and Embiid were on the floor. Now we're taking one of them off. We're taking Al Horford out of the starting lineup, and Glenn Robinson is essentially in the starting lineup. So there's a lack of offensive firepower there. So, I mean, Richardson is the third clear-cut option in this offense. I think he's very viable all formats. And I think Burks, for what it's worth, is very viable in tournaments. Tournaments only. FanDuel probably only because he's 4K, but very viable in tournaments.
Grande, for this to work out with Josh Richardson, not only right now, but if Ben Simmons comes back, he needs to attack the rim more.
Agreed.
Enough with this camping out crap at the arc. I can't stand it anymore. When he was on Miami and he had to be the number one guy on that team, he did it by attacking, not just shooting. With no Ben Simmons, they have to keep attacking the rim somehow. He's one of those candidates that he can't just be expected to take jumpers. He must attack the rim for this to work.
Yeah, unfortunately, they got him to spread the floor, and he's doing that too much. He's not attacking the rim.
I hate it. So RJ Barrett versus Houston. Again, if you're going to trust anyone on the Knicks, I mean, outside of Julius Randle, looking for another option to trust. I mean, especially if Elfrid Payton ends up not playing, RJ Barrett will have the ball in his hands even more, Grande. So I see why you put him there, and also just a very cheap value. Some nice values that you can get at shooting guard. Let's move on to small forward here and talk about Giannis. So, Grande just said that I took the bet. Bucks minus 13. With Giannis, you're saying, wait, he wants to play more in games. You put him in the playbook. Does that mean we shouldn't be concerned about his minutes tonight?
I mean, there's no reason to think that we should. I mean, if you go through the box scores, if you're just box score watching, right, you're not actually watching the games. I mean, they blew out Philly by 20. He plays 29 minutes. They blew out Detroit by 20. He plays 32 minutes. They blew out Orlando by 16. He plays 34 minutes. I mean, it goes on and on. It's really been lately, and I think that he got the rest earlier in the year where it was a blowout. He plays 21, 22 minutes. Right. There was also health issues in the beginning of the year, Fancy, that we were a little worried about, and now he's clearly full, a full go. And we know come postseason, he is playing 40 minutes a night. And that, I think this is the preparation that he's taking now to, take off in the postseason, because he knows he wasn't where he should have been in the postseason last year, and it cost him a potential championship. He wants the championship. He is clearly hungry for it, and I think that's why the minutes are where they are. And I think no matter what situation, he plays 30. And if he's playing 30 minutes, he's going to get us 60 fantasy points, no matter any way you slice it. So there's a ceiling of 80, maybe 90 in this dreadful Washington defense. It's very hard not to play Giannis, especially on FanDuel, where, as you mentioned, small forward is a wasteland.
We'll say this: no Thomas Bryant and no Davis Bertans as well. So few of those options being out will make Giannis's trips to the hoop even easier if that was possible. Let's go down to South Beach and talk about some of the forward options who are going to be getting minutes here, Grande, with no Jimmy Butler or Tyler Hero. Jay Crowder completely came in and took advantage of minutes, not even from those guys, from Myers Leonard at the 4. So the fact that he can play the 4 and doesn't only have to rely on his 3 is so beneficial, and that's why we were able to see him grab more boards early on as soon as he got to the Heat. But also you have Derek Jones Jr. as well. That's another one. So with that, Grande, how do you decide whether or not we pay up for Crowder?
I mean, it's just a bad position, and we're kind of just taking shots, right? I mean, they both were really good against Cleveland. Unfortunately, neither of them started. Eric Spoelstra just shook it up, and he starts Kelly Olynyk, and that was kind of random, to say the least. But they both played extensively. They both played over 27 minutes. Crowder, a little revenge narrative. He's been really good since arriving in Cleveland. 26 plus fantasy points in 4 or 5 games. Miami, rather, sorry. And then Derek Jones, 27 minutes, 36 fantasy points. I actually prefer Jones and the salary savings to Crowder, but I think Crowder makes for an interesting tournament play. I'd actually consider Jones in all formats just based on how bad the position is. I'd also throw DeAndre Hunter, who's been really consistent. I'd also throw Cam Reddish in that category.
I was about to ask you about that, Grande. You're lucky that you mentioned that, because I was about to say, Grande, Hunter's in, and I get that, but Cam Reddish starting to put some good games together, which we weren't seeing early on, and the fact that he can play multiple positions and run the point if needed. If Trae Young needs a couple of minutes, when I say a couple, I use that word as 2 minutes maybe of rest. So it's very hard for me to decide at this point and put that confidence into Hunter. I know he's a building block piece towards the future, and they don't really have any depth up front, but Reddish scares me, man.
Yeah, I did some inception here in the playbook, and I put both Hunter and Cam Reddish in play. I didn't think it was necessary to write them both up. As long as people's reading comprehension skills are A1, they'll be able to see that I wrote kind of both of them together. And I agree. And I think it is difficult, but Hunter has been playing well with Cam Reddish. And I know Dwayne Dedmon's here, and that takes away some of Hunter's power forward minutes, because now it puts Collins back at the power forward position. But he's, for someone who was really inconsistent earlier in the year, 8 of 9 games, he's been over 20 fantasy points, and we're not asking for a lot at 4.2, 4.5. So if we get a consistent floor of 20, 25 with a ceiling he's shown of 40, we're in for a treat. This game is very interesting. A nice total. The spread isn't too bad, even with Tobias Harris returning. So I think I like DeAndre Hunter. I definitely like Cam Reddish. I think a sneaky GPP play is Marcus Morris, actually, and I think that is dependent on Paul George, obviously, but we're writing Marcus Morris off. He was very bad last game. I'm not going to say that. He's been bad since arriving in LA. But this is a guy who was averaging 20 points per game in New York, and he was really good in Boston around a very stacked roster, a roster that included Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kyrie Irving, Al Horford, and he still was scoring 15 to 16 points a night, Marcus Morris was. So he's going to get 30-plus minutes if Paul George sits. Upgraded to questionable, George was, but I still am worried that he's going to return, because it's just the injury just seems worse than originally anticipated.
Going away, man.
Right.
It's not going away.
Right. And that's more probably along the thinking of why they acquired Morris than to be a part of this. He is in the rotation because they're worried about Paul George. Let's be serious. So I think Marcus Morris, really interesting tournament play. Just 4,400 on FanDuel could be super sneaky at a really, really bad small forward position.
Yeah, I disagree with you, by the way. Even if George was healthy, I would still have traded for Marcus Morris. That's an enforcer, Grande.
It's true.
You were a Mighty Ducks guy, I'm sure, back in the day. If you could get Dean Portman or Fulton Reed as your enforcer, you get them. You need tough guys at the end of the day. If you're going up against a team like Giannis in the finals,
Good defender. Very good defender, too. Not just a tough guy. He is physical, but he's a good defender that can play some good offense as well.
Yes, and he's just not a number one guy, which is why the Knicks got rid of him.
Fancy, we have some news, by the way. Speaking of your Knicks, Elfrid Payton ruled out. Dennis Smith Jr. will start at point guard.
Okay, so that's 0. That's probably -5 on the defensive meter for them now.
Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Tucker were at the Kobe at Staples Center today. They're on a plane, and they will land. They're landing in Houston with the anticipation to play. So
So it's not a lock that they're in, you're saying?
Well, they're saying it says will play, but they are still currently on a plane.
Wow.
Okay,
so let's go over very quickly just a game plan. Let's just say they're all out and all hell breaks loose. Let's just say that. Who's the first guy that you're going after?
I don't think we need to worry about it. I think they do play, but it is interesting. I don't know if that a very emotional day, obviously, for them, and I don't know if that maybe factors into very good play or very poor play. Considering I'm sure their heads are not completely in this game.
Right.
But Dennis Smith Jr., I will say, on the flip side of this, as much as I don't want to play Dennis Smith Jr., he's min salary and he's 3,300 on DK. He pretty much becomes a core play because Houston doesn't play any defense at the guard position.
Look, Grande, I'll be honest, man. Like, there are just some players in the NBA that when opportunity arises, you got to take advantage. I don't like Thon Maker at all. Can't stand Thon Maker. But there's no one else there in Detroit. So you got to go with what's working, and that's the opportunity that presents itself. Let's move on to power forward until you make me any more paranoid about this Houston situation. So Kawhi Leonard going up against Memphis now without Jaren Jackson Jr. for the next few weeks. This one seems to be a no-brainer, especially if Paul George doesn't play. Then Kawhi Leonard is going to eat Memphis alive. So I don't think we need to really spend much time on that. Under 10K on both sites, lock him in. Let's talk about Kristaps Porzingis, another guy under 9K on both sites, going up against Minnesota. Who's going to guard him at this point? Nobody. That's the truth. Juan Hernan Gomez? I mean, Naz Reid is going to have a very tough time. I don't think he's experienced enough to keep up with Porzingis' footwork, Grande. Outside of that, James Johnson you're going to put on him?
Right.
It's not going to work out, man.
Yeah, I agree. And I think nobody plays him either. Because I think people are more scared off the price than when Luka's active, and yet he still had 56 fantasy points in his last game with Luka active. So
so then let's make this very simple for everyone. Here's the Mavs food chain when it comes to scoring. Luka right up here, Porzingis probably right here, Tim Hardaway Jr. right there.
No one else on the screen. No one else on the screen.
You can't even see in the picture.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more.
So if you guys don't want to start this guy, 8,100, I'm fine with it. 8,800, okay, gets me thinking a little bit more. 8,100, I'll take it still until it burns me a few straight times. And then I'll go back to it when he's streaking again if he's struggling. So I like that very much. Another guy I wrote in the starting five, or I put in the starting five video, Robert Covington going up against the Knicks. Just forget the matchup. For PJ Tucker and Robert Covington, that is the Rockets' front court for the rest of the year. And it scares the hell out of me if I'm a Rockets fan or if I put in money on the Rockets before the season started. That's a problem. So the opportunity and the minutes will be there. And I love that price point, which is why I included him, Grande.
Yeah, the price point is great. I mean, he's becoming a rim protector. A forced rim protector, 11 blocks his last 3 games. And I don't think Julius Randle is going to be able to chase him around on that perimeter all night. And whoever they decide to guard, it's going to be a mismatch. Because if you don't put Randle on him, you're going to put a small forward who he's not going to have any problems with. So I really like Covington for tournaments. I think if you're going to play him, I think you could correlate him with a Westbrook or a Harden because if he's taking 12, 13 threes a game, he's going to be getting a lot of passes to him from Westbrook or Harden. That's another 1.5 that you can add to the tally with Westbrook or Harden.
I'm hoping he plays more in the post, Grande.
Yeah.
He could beat the Knicks in the post, and that'll help out with not only the scoring, but we'll put him in line to grab some more boards as well.
It will, and he's actually been, we know he's a guy who can stuff the box score. So, I agree with you. I wouldn't play him in cash. I think he's a little scary in cash games. Just he is volatile, and this game could be a blowout. And but tournaments, perfectly fine with.
Some of the other value options who I love that are in the playbook, and one of them being Aaron Gordon. Again, I start to wonder with the price point now in the 7K range, but at the same time, Gordon not only has appeal as the second scorer on this Magic team, but also, Grande, he's been forced to play the post because no more Jonathan Isaac. He's not coming back this year, and they really don't have anybody else that can play the post effectively on both sides of the ball. So when Aaron Gordon was more of the small forward, just chucking up 3 after 3, didn't like this guy. Now he's putting himself in a better spot to be more of a rebounder, and that's why even at this price point, Grande, I like it against Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tournament play, but he's probably in the best stretch of his season, at least from a fantasy standpoint. 41 or more fantasy points in 3 straight. It's a pace-up spot, 30-plus in 7 of 8. So I think the Magic are kind of sneaky tonight. They have the lowest implied total on the board. No one's going to play them. So if you want to play some Magic, I think Aaron Gordon fits the bill as a really sneaky tournament play. Let's
talk about Brandon Clark. He's going to be playing 30 minutes in this game.
Yep. Already announced as the projected starter. So, which we're both, I mean, I think that's kind of like a sigh of relief because, Memphis has been very weird about their rotations this year. I don't think there's any denying that.
I was worried about Kyle Anderson going to the 4.
Yeah, I was worried about Kyle Anderson. I was worried about Josh Jackson after he played 20-plus minutes. I mean, he played 23 minutes and scored 20 actual points, and this is a guy that was a lottery pick not too long ago. So, I mean, just the fact that they've been so inconsistent with Clark's minutes worried me a little bit, but 32 minutes last time out. He has 2 straight double-figure rebound games. He has 3 straight games of 27 or more fantasy points. Everything lines up for Brandon Clark tonight. I think he's a core play. I think he's a cash play. He's a tournament play. Whatever you want to use Brandon Clark in, that's fine. It's a really good pace. Like, we can continue to just add up things to favor Clark. Plus, the Clippers suck in the front court. If you're going to attack the Clippers anywhere, it's the front court. So,
plus this price point in the next week and a half might be close to $6K, and then it's going to be a lot tougher for us to want to pay for him.
Also very true, and it will be $6K because Brandon Clark has been $5K all year coming off the bench. Now we're getting him starting for 2 weeks. He's going to give us 30-plus fantasy points given the production. Obviously, the only worry is if he guards Kawhi, it's scary because he can pick up quick fouls. But if he keeps out of foul trouble, he's going to have no problem far and away exceeding 5X value.
You know what I do? I put Kyle Anderson on Kawhi first. He knows Kawhi the best.
That works. He'll get absolutely murdered, but, I mean, it works.
If he has to be a sacrificial lamb, then so be it. Final power forward before we move on to the centers, someone that we have to talk about because of the Wizards' health issues again, and that's Rui Hachimura. We don't have to worry about his minutes being limited or anything like that in this game. My projection personally is that he's going to play in the late 20s. Maybe he hits 30 in this game. We'll have to see. But still, you don't have Bertans. You don't have Thomas Bryant. I mean, it's literally your front court is Hachimura, Mo Wagner, and who? Jan Mahimi? That's it? Yep. That's it.
He hasn't played 30 minutes either, Fancy, in the last couple games. He's still been productive. So even if we get 28 minutes and now 28 minutes sans Bertans and Thomas Bryant, I mean, that's huge. 23% usage rate, 0.99 fantasy points per minute. So if we get, 28 minutes, 30 minutes, he's averaging a fantasy point per minute, gets us 30 fantasy points. I mean, that's exceeding 5X on both sides. So I think Hachimura is fine because they just don't really have many other options at this point.
All right, then let's move on to center because the person that everybody in DFS is going to be playing, James, against Atlanta. No center on the other side for the most part. Sorry, Dwayne Dedmon. I don't know disrespect.
Don't apologize.
Simmons. I mean, Joel Embiid. I mean, the ownership percentages on the playbook is just, I think it's almost too low.
I'm one of those people, and you should be one of those people, and Joe and Bob and Bill down the road should all also be those people because, I mean, there's just no chance that anyone stops the guy. Atlanta's the worst defensive team in basketball. They're one of the worst rebounding teams in basketball. You have a guy averaging nearly 60 fantasy points against them. There's no Ben Simmons. The offense is literally going to funnel. It's going to be a funnel, a beer funnel, just the basketball just dropping into Joel Embiid's arms every single time down the floor. We could be talking about a triple-double-esque performance because he is a good passer out of the post. So there's no way around it. And he's $9,500. Like, that is so stupid. And it's DraftKings. Shouts to FanDuel for raising his price to $10K. I'll give them credit on that one. $9,500 on DK is a must-play price tag.
Other centers that you could go with, Nikola Vucevic versus Brooklyn. So you have to look at it like this. You could spend $9,100 for Vucevic or spend $400 more on DraftKings and go with the guy whose usage is somehow, some way going up. I wonder what we're going to do.
I agree. The only thing I will say is we have made a lot of money attacking Brooklyn centers throughout the years. And yes, DeAndre Jordan is there, but Brooklyn is still the third worst defense against centers. So DeAndre Jordan has not made much of a difference this year. And Vucevic is coming off 52, 52, 52, 48 fantasy points. He had 24 rebounds against Brooklyn early this year, and he went 3 of 12 from the floor. How much left? How much did he leave to be desired in that game? 24 rebounds, 48 fantasy points, 3 for 12 from the floor. I mean, look, I'm not fading Embiid in many spots. Here's one of the spots you do fade him. You can pivot to Vucevic. You can pivot to Ayton, I think. Very sneaky spot for DeAndre Ayton. People love Rudy Gobert's defense. Oh, my God. Best defender in the world. I know you don't. 7th worst defense against centers over the last month. 7th worst defense. So I think I really like Ayton as a tournament pivot as well. But it's very hard to fade Embiid coming back full circle. You like Rudy Gobert. I want you to explain why. I mean, I know why. It's Phoenix, but I can't get Rudy Gobert right. But Fancy,
right, I'm going to tell you why, Grande. I'm going to tell you why. There are a few reasons why I like Rudy Gobert. Number one, he kicked their tuchus once already this year. Deep double-double for him. So you're getting that. You know that you have that 16 rebound upside with him. And I hate using the word upside and hate myself for just saying that word. Also, it's Phoenix. It's DeAndre Ayton, dude. Number 3, the price point. I mean, we're talking about spending $9,100, $9,400 for Vucevic, where Rudy Gobert is $8K and $7,900. And he makes double-doubles look easy. He had a bad game last time out. It's one game. He also averages nearly 2 blocks a game. What else do we need to determine?
I think it's just my bias that I can't get him right. And I have to shake it because I can't get him right. But a lot of spots I'm just looking to find the extra salary.
You get Rudy Gobert wrong, Grande? You get Rudy Gobert wrong when he's priced up to $9K. And
I never play Rudy Gobert at that price. If he's more than honestly $8K, I never play Rudy Gobert because I don't think his offensive game can get me to 50 a lot of the time. So if he's over $8K, I really tend to stay away. And I get it, he's under it. But I probably a lot of the times tonight finding the extra salary to get up to JoJo.
All right, then let's talk about some of the other value options that you can look at. I mean, Jonas Valanciunas, again, no Jaren Jackson Jr. You're just hoping, Grande, that this guy can play 30 minutes. I mean, they let him have a stretch where he played 30 minutes, and he was fine, and then they pulled him back a little bit. And part of it was they traded for other bigs for depth, but why would you pull him back? I don't understand. And that's my one problem with spending $7K on Joe Val tonight.
I agree. I've also noticed it's been a trend in back-to-backs that he hasn't played, and there is no back-to-back tomorrow. There was no game yesterday, and this is a really good spot. I mean, we've attacked Clippers bigs. They're not going to play Zubac very much, and then we're going to get a 6'5" Montrezl Harrell playing 30 minutes against Jonas Valanciunas. That's my one takeaway, and I think it's clearly a tournament play. We're not playing him in cash, but I think it's a viable tournament play at that, just considering, the upside that he possesses in 30 minutes on the floor. I mean, we're talking about a guy who can go 20 and 15 in 30 minutes. Ultimately, though, there are 3 very elite plays underneath him. If you're not playing Joel Embiid, I think Montrezl Harrell stands out like a sore thumb at this price tag, especially without Paul George. I think Kelly Olynyk, who's officially starting again tonight, $3,700 and $3,900 across the industry. Too cheap for a guy if he plays 25 minutes, is really productive, and he gets Cleveland. And then I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say Robin Lopez with Brooke Lopez out. He's stone cold min salary, and it's not an exciting play. But Robin Lopez is not a bad basketball player when given 25 minutes. And I could see that. Yes, they added Marvin Williams, and they can go small, and they could do all this. But if Robin Lopez, I just combined Robin Williams, and Robin Lopez all into one basketball player. But if he gets 25 minutes, we could be talking about a guy who crushes min salary.
Yes, and speaking of crushing, that's what we want all of you to do with your DFS NBA lineups. He's James Grande at @the_real_Grande_new daddy. Grande, congratulations again, sir. You are no longer the baby face of the family. You are now the toddler face. I'm at Fantasy Sports, and make sure all of you check out Alarm After Hours on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, Sirius 210 XM87 tonight and every weeknight, midnight Eastern. Come hang with the FA family. This is what we do. Always dominate. Why? Because there is no other option. Good luck, everyone.